There comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world grows quiet and a single truth begins to echo from somewhere deep within you. You are the author of your becoming. Not your past. Not your failures. Not the voices that told you to stay small. You. You and the power of a single decision. Because everything changes the moment you decide, truly decide, who you will become. This is not a soft whisper. It's not a wish. It's not a someday dream. It's the kind of decision that feels like setting fire to everything that kept you ordinary. It's the moment your excuses no longer have a home. It's the moment you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. The world will try to convince you that identity is something you inherit. That you are bound to the limits of where you were born, what you've been through, or who you used to be. But identity is not inherited. It's built. It's carved in the quiet, ruthless moments where you decide to rise, again and again, until your reflection matches your vision. Every person who became something extraordinary once stood where you stand now. Henry Ford was not born an empire builder. He decided to become one. Thomas Edison wasn't handed genius on a silver platter. He decided to keep going when the world laughed. Walt Disney was not born a visionary who lit up the world with dreams. He became one, brick by brick, decision by decision. What they understood, and what so many never do, is that the most powerful force in the universe is not luck, not talent, not timing. It's a made-up mind. When you decide who you will become, the world has no choice but to bend, slowly, painfully, inevitably, to that decision. But the decision must be real. Not a passing emotion. Not a burst of temporary motivation. A real decision is a contract with yourself that cannot be broken. It is forged in silence, when no one is watching. It's the fire you build in the dark. This is where your story begins. Not with what happened to you. Not with what you were given or what you lost. It begins the moment you draw the line in the sand and say, "This is who I will become. And nothing will stop me." The power of decision is quiet, but it's not gentle. It will demand everything from you. It will strip away your excuses. It will pull you into battle with your old self. It will ask you to let go of who you were to become who you were meant to be. That is why most never decide. They choose comfort over transformation. Familiarity over greatness. But those who do make that decision, they move differently. Their eyes hold a storm the world can feel. They don't need permission. They don't need applause. They move like they've already won because they decided that they will. This is the truth most people run from. The person you will become is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. They are forged in your daily decisions. In the moment you choose discipline over distraction. In the moment you choose courage over comfort. In the moment you choose purpose over pleasure. Your life is not shaped by chance. It is shaped by the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. Every empire began with one human being deciding they were more than their circumstances. Andrew Carnegie didn't wait for permission to become great. Napoleon Hill didn't wait for approval to speak his truth. They stepped forward, and the world had no choice but to follow. And make no mistake, deciding who you will become will cost you. It will cost you your excuses. It will cost you the comfort of being understood by everyone. It will cost you the safety of fitting in. Because greatness was never meant to fit inside the walls of the ordinary. The moment you decide to become more, you will feel resistance. The world will test you. Life will place storms in your path. Doubt will whisper, "Who do you think you are?" Fear will stand in front of you like a wall. But what they don't tell you is that the wall is made of paper. It looks strong until you walk through it. The world does not belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who decide. This is the same decision that shaped every legend who ever lived. Abraham Lincoln decided to rise from failure and tragedy to lead a nation. Thomas Edison decided to keep creating when the world called him a fool. Walt Disney decided to build magic while others laughed. And now, it's your turn. The future is not waiting for someone more qualified, more talented, or more connected. It's waiting for someone more decided. Because when you make that kind of decision, the kind that cuts off all retreat, the kind that makes quitting impossible, the kind that rewrites the story, the universe shifts. People can feel it. The energy around you changes. Doors you never knew existed begin to open. Not because the world suddenly favors you, but because you finally favor yourself. You cannot become who you are meant to be if you keep arguing for who you are now. The old you must die for the new one to live. And that begins with a decision. A decision to burn the bridge to mediocrity. A decision to stop playing small. A decision to carry the weight of your potential with the strength it deserves. This is the greatest power you possess, the power to decide. It's not about waiting for destiny. It's about becoming destiny. It's about standing in front of the mirror, looking yourself in the eye, and saying, I decide who I will become. I decide how far I will go. I decide what legacy I will leave. And when you say it with conviction, not from your lips, but from your soul, something shifts inside you. That is the moment when your future stops being a fantasy and starts becoming inevitable. The power of decision is not measured in the moment you say it. It's measured in the moments after, when the world pushes back. Because the second you decide to become more than your past, your old life will fight to keep you exactly where you are. That's the battlefield most people never cross, not the war outside, but the war within. The moment you say, I will become more, the world doesn't clap. It tests. It shakes the ground beneath your feet. It whispers every reason why you should stop. It reminds you of your past failures, your scars, your fears. It tempts you to return to the familiar cage of comfort. But that's where the ones who are remembered for centuries separate themselves from those who are forgotten in silence. They choose to keep walking through the storm. This is why belief matters. Belief is the backbone of decision. Without belief, decisions are just words. Belief is what turns a quiet whisper into a battle cry. It's what keeps you standing when nothing else makes sense. It's what made Abraham Lincoln rise again after crushing defeats. It's what made Thomas Edison keep experimenting long after the world told him to quit. It's what made Walt Disney build empires out of dreams others mocked. Belief isn't given to you. It's built inside you. And it grows when your decision becomes your daily action. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, your belief grows stronger. Every time you silence the voice that says you can't, and move forward anyway, your belief becomes louder. The world doesn't move for those who merely hope. It moves for those who believe so fiercely that doubt has no room to breathe. When belief and decision merge, they become unstoppable. And this is where vision takes root. Because a decision without vision is like a ship without a compass. You might move, but you'll drift in circles. Vision gives your decision direction. Vision takes your belief and stretches it across the horizon. It gives you something to fight for when everything around you tries to crush you. Every great legacy began as a vision. Henry Ford saw cars not just as machines, but as freedom for the common man. Andrew Carnegie saw beyond steel beams. He saw a world built on possibility. Napoleon Hill saw beyond poverty and fear. He saw minds powerful enough to build empires. Vision isn't about what's in front of you. It's about what could be if you refuse to quit. It's about holding on to the image of your future so fiercely that no setback can rip it from your hands. And here's the truth. Vision will cost you comfort. It will cost you fitting in. It will cost you the approval of those who've chosen to settle. Because when your vision expands, it exposes the smallness around you. But that's the beauty of deciding who you will become. You stop asking the world to understand your fire. You let your fire speak for itself. The world is full of people waiting for someone to save them. But the ones who shape history are the ones who decide to save themselves. They don't wait for opportunity. They become opportunity. They don't wait for the right moment. They create it. Your decision to become something greater is not about luck. It's not about privilege. It's about how far you're willing to go for the life that's already waiting for you. The world doesn't hand greatness to anyone. It bends for those who refuse to bend to it. And here's the secret that most never hear. The person you want to become is already inside you. They're not some distant version hiding in the future. They live in the choices you make today. Every time you choose to stand when it's easier to sit. Every time you choose to speak when it's easier to stay silent. Every time you choose to move when it's easier to wait. You don't become powerful in one grand moment. You become powerful in 1,000 small, invisible moments of decision. The day Walt Disney decided to draw something magical, he didn't look like a legend. The day Abraham Lincoln chose to rise from failure again, he didn't look like a giant. The day Thomas Edison lit the night with a single bulb, it was built on 1,000 invisible steps the world never saw. The decision to become is made in silence. But its echo can shake the world. You must understand, this is not about who you are today. It's about who you decide to be every single day moving forward. That decision is your weapon. That vision is your compass. That belief is your fire. And the moment these three align, decision, belief, and vision, everything begins to shift. The path may still be hard. The storms may still come. But you stop walking like someone hoping for change. You start walking like someone becoming the change. You'll start to see the world differently. What once felt like obstacles will start to look like opportunities. What once felt like fear will become fuel. What once felt impossible will start to feel inevitable. Not because the world became easier, but because you became stronger. This is the power of deciding who you will become. It doesn't just change your life. It changes you. The world doesn't reward intention. It rewards discipline. A decision without discipline is a promise that dies in the wind. That is why most people never become who they say they want to be. They speak loudly of their dreams, but whisper when it's time to act. They light the fire for a night, but let it die in the morning. But those who truly decide, they build their decision into a daily rhythm. Discipline becomes their heartbeat. Discipline is not about feeling ready. It's about acting when everything in you wants to stop. It's about rising before the world wakes, not because someone is watching, but because you made a vow to yourself. It's about showing up on the days when you're tired, when it's dark, when doubt scratches at your door. That's where identity is forged. That's where the person you decided to become stops being an idea and starts becoming real. Thomas Edison didn't build light by dreaming of brightness. He built it by showing up again and again, facing failure 1,000 times, and never walking away. Abraham Lincoln didn't lead a nation by waiting for the perfect moment. He stood tall through defeat after defeat, walking through storms that would have broken most men. Walt Disney didn't create magic by hoping someone else would. He built it with sleepless nights, relentless vision, and a stubbornness the world couldn't break. That's what discipline looks like. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's a man or a woman in a quiet room, doing the work no one else wants to do, day after day after day. It's pushing forward when no applause is coming. It's believing when no proof exists. It's planting seeds in silence while others laugh, and one day standing in a forest while they wonder how you did it. The person you decided to become cannot exist without discipline. It is the bridge between the decision and the destiny. You can't cross it with wishes. You can only cross it with action. You must understand, every morning you wake up, you are either building the person you decided to become or feeding the one you left behind. There is no in between. Discipline is not punishment. It's liberation. It frees you from the chains of distraction, procrastination, and doubt. When your actions are aligned with your decision, the noise of the world grows quieter. You stop needing motivation to move because movement itself becomes who you are. Discipline transforms effort into identity. This is where greatness is born, not in moments of inspiration, but in the trenches of repetition. It's forged in sweat, shaped in silence, and revealed in time. Discipline is doing what must be done, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Because the world only sees the victory, but the relentless know it was the discipline that built it. Every person you admire was once a nobody making disciplined choices no one cared about. Henry Ford worked in silence before his name was spoken across continents. Andrew Carnegie climbed from nothing, not with luck, but with consistent, daily action. Napoleon Hill wrote words the world ignored for years, until the world caught up to the fire he had already built. And here's the truth that cuts deep. The people who quit didn't fail because they weren't capable. They failed because they let their emotions lead them more than their discipline. Emotions are fleeting. Discipline endures. Your emotions will tell you to stay in bed. Discipline will drag you to your destiny. Your emotions will tell you to quit. Discipline will whisper, "Not yet." Your emotions will change 1,000 times. Discipline doesn't move. The power of deciding who you will become is not proven in your strongest moments. It's proven in your weakest. It's not tested when everything is going right. It's tested when everything is falling apart. That's when your decision must speak louder than your fear. That's when discipline must lead where your motivation fails. And understand this, discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means commitment. It means getting back up after every fall. It means showing up after every failure. It means fighting for the life you promised yourself, even when it feels like the world is fighting back. The relentless don't quit because it's hard. They expect it to be hard. They build their identity on pushing through it. That's why they walk differently. That's why their presence carries weight. They know who they are because they've paid the price to become it. This is the moment where most people give up. It's the dark, lonely, quiet place where nothing seems to move. But that's where the future is built. That's where the invisible work begins to write visible history. That's where your decision either fades into dust or turns into power. If you can hold the line in that silence, if you can keep moving when the world has turned its back, if you can be disciplined enough to honor the promise you made to yourself, then what waits for you on the other side is not just success. It's transformation. Life will not make it easy for you. The moment you decide who you will become, it will test you. It will throw storms, betrayal, rejection, and silence. Not because you are weak, but because it wants to know if your decision is real. It wants to know if the person you've decided to become is stronger than the person you used to be. That's why adaptability becomes your greatest strength. The relentless don't fall apart when the plan breaks. They bend and rebuild. They don't freeze when the path disappears. They carve a new one with their own hands. They understand what most never do, that the world doesn't owe them a straight road. If the bridge is burned, they swim. If the gate is locked, they climb. If the map is gone, they walk anyway. Adaptability is what turns obstacles into opportunities. It's what makes you dangerous to mediocrity. Because no matter how the world shifts, you find a way forward. That's what made Abraham Lincoln stand firm after countless defeats. That's what made Thomas Edison turn failure into fuel. That's what made Walt Disney take rejection and build an empire out of it. Most people quit not because they can't win, but because they can't adapt. The plan changed, so they gave up. The timing shifted, so they stopped. The storm came, and they mistook resistance for the end. But the ones who decide who they will become, truly decide, they don't let storms dictate their destiny. They adjust their sails and keep moving. Pain is a part of that journey. Not the enemy. The teacher. Pain will introduce you to yourself in a way comfort never could. It will strip away illusions. It will test your foundation. It will ask, do you still want this when it hurts? And your answer to that question will shape your entire future. Anyone can dream when it's easy. But when the wind is in your face and the world seems to laugh at your struggle, that's where true becoming happens. That's where your decision stops being an idea and turns into a force. Pain is not the end of the path. Pain is the path. It is the price every great person has paid to become who they were meant to be. Henry Ford faced failure, lawsuits, and sabotage before his name ever meant anything. Andrew Carnegie was mocked, doubted, and resisted before his vision reshaped industries. Napoleon Hill spent years rejected, misunderstood, ignored, but his decision didn't bend. That's why their names live on. Not because the road was easy, but because they will outlasted the road. Pain is proof that you are in the arena while others sit in the stands. It's a badge that says, I'm still here. It means you're fighting for something that matters. If it didn't matter, it wouldn't hurt this much. Resilience is born right there. Not in victory. In the breaking point. In the moment everything tells you to quit, and you don't. Resilience is the power that comes from falling down and standing up with fire still in your chest. It's the strength that turns doubt into fuel, fear into clarity, and setbacks into stepping stones. The person you decided to become will not appear in comfort. They will be carved in these brutal, beautiful, breaking moments. That's where your soul hardens. That's where your belief sharpens. That's where your decision becomes unshakable. Do not fear the breaking point. It's where the old version of you dies, and the new one is born. The weak mindset breaks there. The strong one is forged there. If you embrace it, if you adapt to it, if you let pain make you better instead of bitter, you'll rise with something no one can give you, a foundation that cannot be moved. The world is filled with people who gave up at the point where they were closest to becoming who they were meant to be. They let the storm convince them that it was over, when it was actually the moment they were supposed to grow wings. But the relentless, they keep walking. They use every bruise as a brick, every scar as armor, every pain as proof that they are still standing. Adaptability and resilience make you unbreakable. They turn your decision into a living force. Because when the world sees someone who can't be stopped, who bends but never breaks, it has no choice but to step aside. That's what legends are made of. Not perfect paths, but relentless spirits. And here's something most will never understand. Becoming who you decided to be isn't about winning all the time. It's about refusing to lose permanently. It's about getting knocked down 100 times and rising 101. It's about walking with bruises, with scars, with fear in your chest, and still saying, "I'm not done." The fire you build in those moments will not just light your path. It will light the paths of others who one day look at your story and say, "If they could keep going, so can I." Gratitude is a quiet storm that strengthens the soul. When you decide who you will become, it's not just about power, ambition, or victory. It's about anchoring yourself in gratitude so deeply that no storm can pull you away from your purpose. Gratitude is not weakness. It is the shield of the unbreakable. It turns pain into purpose, pressure into fuel, and darkness into clarity. Most people see gratitude as something you feel only when life is easy. But true gratitude lives in the trenches. It lives in the moments where you are tired, bruised, and alone, and you still whisper, "Thank you." Thank you for the lessons hidden inside the pain. Thank you for the chance to fight for something real. Thank you for the struggle that is shaping me into the person I decided to become. When Abraham Lincoln was broken by loss, he found gratitude in the weight of leadership. When Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times, he found gratitude in the lessons those failures taught him. When Walt Disney faced rejection after rejection, he found gratitude in the stubborn fire that burned in his chest. Gratitude kept their hearts steady when the world tried to shake them. Gratitude is power because it keeps you from becoming bitter. Bitterness rots dreams from the inside out. It makes strong people forget why they started. But gratitude keeps the fire pure. It reminds you that every trial is part of the story. It doesn't mean you love the pain. It means you understand its purpose. When you are grateful, setbacks don't break you, they build you. When you are grateful, failure doesn't define you, it refines you. When you are grateful, doubt doesn't drown you, it sharpens your focus. Gratitude doesn't make the road easier. It makes you stronger. And from that gratitude, something powerful begins to rise, identity. Because once you've walked through storms and thanked them for shaping you, you stop being afraid of anything. You stop begging for permission to exist. You stop apologizing for your fire. You become the architect of who you are. This is the moment where many fall apart. They've decided what they want, but they've never decided who they are. If you don't define yourself, the world will do it for you. It will hand you labels, limits, and lies. But when you decide your identity, when you plant your feet and declare, "This is who I am," everything changes. Your identity must be forged like iron. Not based on applause. Not based on outcomes. Not based on who approves of you. It must be forged on the decision that no matter what happens, win or lose, rise or fall, you remain unshaken. The world couldn't define Napoleon Hill. They ignored him, doubted him, but he knew who he was. It couldn't define Henry Ford. They mocked his dream of cars for everyone, but he built it anyway. It couldn't define Walt Disney. They said he was chasing fairy tales, but he turned those dreams into kingdoms. When your identity is rooted in your decision and not the world's opinion, no one can take it from you. Rejection can't shake it. Failure can't break it. Doubt can't silence it. Because you no longer live trying to prove who you are, you are. You must stop asking the world to validate your worth. You must stop searching for permission to rise. The moment you decided who you will become, you were already enough. The rest of the journey isn't about proving it to them. It's about living it fully, loudly, fiercely. When your identity becomes clear, your actions align. You no longer chase distractions. You no longer beg for acceptance. You walk with quiet, unshakable certainty. You become the person whose presence speaks louder than words. This is why the decision to become someone greater is sacred. It's not about pretending to be someone else. It's about returning to the truth of who you were always capable of being. Under the doubt. Under the pain. Under the years of playing small. The world will always try to shrink those who stand tall. But identity built on decision cannot be shrunk. It cannot be bent. It cannot be stolen. And when your identity stands firm, something even greater begins to awaken: legacy. Legacy is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build. It's the echo of your decision long after you're gone. It's the ripple effect of your refusal to quit. It's the mark your existence leaves on the people who watched you stand when everything said you should fall. Abraham Lincoln is not remembered because his life was easy. He's remembered because he carried a decision through storms. Thomas Edison is not remembered because he got it right the first time. He's remembered because he never stopped. Walt Disney is not remembered because he followed the crowd. He's remembered because he created a world out of rejection. Your legacy will not be built in your victories alone. It will be built in your refusal to give up, in the way you adapt, in the way you stand, in the way you stay grateful even when the world grows cold. One day, someone will look at your story and find their courage in it. One day, someone will whisper your name and say, "They decided, and because they decided, I can too." That is legacy. This is the power of deciding who you will become. It does not just change your life. It shapes lives you may never meet. It creates ripples that move through time long after your voice is gone. Fear has broken more dreams than failure ever will. Not because fear is stronger, but because most people hand it their power. They let fear convince them to stay small. They let fear build walls around their destiny. But the moment you decide who you will become, fear loses its grip. Because fear cannot control someone who has already chosen their future. Fear will not disappear. It will whisper in your ear. It will tell you that you're not ready, not worthy, not enough. It will paint vivid pictures of everything that could go wrong. But it only wins if you listen. The relentless hear fear and keep walking anyway. Courage isn't silence in the face of fear. It's movement in spite of it. Look at Abraham Lincoln standing on the edge of a nation torn apart. Do you think he wasn't afraid? He was. But he walked forward anyway. Thomas Edison didn't know if the light would ever shine, but he believed in his decision more than he feared failure. Walt Disney stared at bankruptcy, rejection, and mockery, and still built a dream the world now lives in. Fear was there. It just didn't lead. The truth is, fear is a test. It appears to ask one question: do you trust your decision more than your doubt? The moment your answer is yes, the walls that once looked like iron begin to crack. The shadows that once looked huge begin to shrink. Because fear only exists in the space between who you are and who you're supposed to become. You were not meant to build your life around fear. You were meant to lead it. To step forward when it tells you to step back. To speak when it tells you to be silent. To rise when it tells you to hide. That's where power lives, not in the absence of fear, but in the refusal to bow to it. When Napoleon Hill wrote about burning desire, he was writing about this exact fire, the kind of fire that walks with fear but never lets it hold the reins. The kind of fire that says, "Yes, I'm scared, but I will not stop." That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Fear will always try to bargain with you. It will say, "Wait until the timing is perfect." It will say, "You need more proof before you move." It will say, "Maybe this isn't for you." And while most people negotiate with fear, the relentless look it dead in the eye and move anyway. Your decision to become someone greater must be louder than fear's whisper. It must be written in your soul so deeply that nothing can shake it. Because fear is not a wall, it's a doorway. The only way past it is through. And here's something most people never realize. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're standing at the edge of something that matters. No one fears the small. Fear only shows up when your soul is about to step into power. That's why the relentless use fear as a compass. If it scares them, it's probably the path they're meant to walk. Fear cannot stand in the face of action. Every step you take, no matter how small, steals its power. The first step is the hardest. But once you take it, the second becomes easier. And then the third. And suddenly, the thing that once felt impossible is behind you. This is why most never reach their potential. They stand at the door, listening to fear's story, until it becomes their truth. But the ones who decide who they will become, they push the door open, even with shaking hands. And the moment they do, fear realizes it was never strong to begin with. The world does not reward the fearless. It rewards the brave. Those who walk through fear and came out the other side carrying their decision like fire in their chest. Those who understood that fear is not the signal to stop, it's the signal to begin. You must stop waiting for the day you feel ready. That day will not come. Readiness is a myth built to keep you safe and small. Greatness doesn't arrive wrapped in certainty. It's born in movement. It's born in faith. It's born in a decision so powerful that fear can only watch as you move past it. The future you want does not belong to the hesitant. It belongs to the decided. To the one who says, I will walk even if my legs shake. I will speak even if my voice cracks. I will build even if no one believes. That's power. That's courage. That's the difference between a life that echoes and a life that disappears in silence. When fear comes again, and it will, don't curse it. Welcome it like an old rival. Look it in the eye and remind it who you are. Because fear isn't here to stop you. It's here to test how badly you want the life you decided to build. The moment you stop giving fear your energy, everything begins to move. You stop waiting. You stop asking for permission. You stop living like your dream is a question. You start living like it's a promise. A promise that you made. A promise that no one else can fulfill. Fear loses its voice the moment you raise yours. And when fear is silent, the world becomes wide open. That's where clarity sharpens. That's where power awakens. That's where destiny starts to take shape.